I'm Sarah. On my birthday, inside the glittering glass-walled restaurant in downtown Seattle, my sister Chloe rose from her chair, one hand cupping her barely there bump, and declared she was carrying my husband Ryan's baby. The room tilted. The clink of wine glasses blurred into a dull hum as every gaze fixed on me, waiting for me to crack. They wanted drama, tears, a shout, maybe a plate smashed for good measure. Chloe's smile was razor sharp, and Ryan, standing at her side, had the audacity to wear a look of sympathy, as if he hadn't just driven a blade into my back. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply sat, my fingers circling the stem of my wine glass, letting the silence thicken until it felt choking. They assumed they had written my ending. They hadn't realized I still held the pen. Growing up in a cramped Seattle duplex, I was the glue. While Chloe, 2 years younger, floated through childhood as the golden child, I was the one balancing bills when our parents forgot to pay the electric. Chloe absorbed the attention. New dresses, dance classes, applause. I received lectures about duty. You're so reliable, Sarah. They tell me as if it were praise, but it always felt like bars around me. I didn't resent it, not truly. I loved my sister, even when her charm outshone mine. I assumed that was family. One of us anchored, the other the star. Meeting Ryan felt like finally finding my own light. He was a financial consultant, all smooth talk and promises, with eyes that made you feel seen. We married in a small lakeside ceremony by Lake Washington, and I poured myself into building our life together. I wanted a family, children racing across a backyard, laughter filling the rooms of a home we'd made ours. But after years of trying, nothing. Each negative test chipped away at me until I felt I'd failed at the one thing I wanted most. Ryan would hold me, his voice low. It's okay, Sarah. We'll keep trying. I believed him. I believed in us. That belief splintered on a rainy Tuesday. I was home, scrolling for a lasagna recipe on our shared tablet, when an email notification bobbed up. It was from Chloe to Ryan. The subject line, our plan. My stomach clenched like I'd swallowed ice. I knew I shouldn't open it, but my hands moved before I could stop them. The message exposed everything. The affair, months of stolen moments behind my back. But the last paragraph knocked me to my knees. Chloe schemed to reveal a pregnancy at my birthday dinner, to humiliate me before everyone we knew and force me into a quiet divorce so they could walk away with everything. She'll fold, Chloe wrote. She always does. I let the tablet fall. The screen shattered against the hardwood like the fracture inside me. I stumbled to the bathroom, locked the door, and leaned my back against it as if I could hold the truth out. My breaths came in ragged gasps, but I didn't cry. I opened my mouth and released a single, silent scream, a raw, wordless expulsion of the life I had believed in. Then something changed. The pain didn't break me, it honed me. I grabbed my phone and called Mia, my college best friend. Mia, I said, my voice steady despite the storm. It's happened. They're trying to destroy me. Her voice trembled with concern. Where are you? She asked. Home, I answered. But I'm not going down without a fight. I'm going to burn their world to the ground. The weeks after that email blurred into a tightrope walk between collapsing and retaliation. Rage and focus braided together. Mia arrived that very night, her dark curls bouncing as she charged into my apartment, ready for battle. We need a plan, she declared, pacing while her paralegal mind began clicking. I sat on the couch, the cracked tablet still on the floor, and told her everything. Chloe's betrayal, Ryan's lies, their plot to humiliate me. But a memory from a year earlier kept clawing for attention. Ryan and I had tried for a baby for years. Every failed attempt left a fresh wound. I had begged him to get tested to see if he might be the problem. He brushed it off for months, refusing to go. Then, one day, he finally agreed. He went to Cascade Clinic by himself, came back with bloodshot eyes, and wrapped his arms around me as I cried. It isn't me, Sarah, he whispered, his voice heavy with what I thought was mutual sorrow. The doctor says I'm fine. It must be you. I carried that weight for a year, convinced I was the one who was broken. My body a failure. Each appointment, every test. I blamed myself while Ryan played the devoted husband, stroking my hair and promising we'd get through it. Now that lie burned like a cruelty I couldn't unsee. Mia, I said, my tone hard. I need the truth from Cascade Clinic. Ryan's results from last year. She frowned, pushing a loose curl behind her ear. Sarah, that's protected by HIPAA. It's not simple to access. I'm his wife, I snapped, my hand shaking. There has to be a way. Mia's eyes narrowed. She nodded once. Give me a few days. I'll find a key to that fortress. It took 2 relentless weeks, calls, searching Ryan's old files for consent forms, and Mia's clever maneuvering through the clinic's barriers. Then, one evening, an email arrived with a PDF attached. My heart pounded as I clicked it open, the cursor hovering over the file. The report appeared, and I scrolled straight to the summary. Patient exhibits 0 sperm motility. Diagnosis, azoospermia. Sterile. The word hit me like a slap. Ryan wasn't only unfaithful, he'd let me believe the infertility was my fault, knowing he could never give me the family I longed for. My hands trembled, not with sorrow but with fury. If he could lie about this, what else was buried? That question became an obsession. I remembered Ryan's story about the clinic visits, the specialists, the thousands of dollars. I opened our bank statements from that month. Not a single payment to Cascade Clinic. Instead, a $20,000 cash withdrawal stared back at me, unexplained. My gut twisted. This was no longer just about an affair. Something deeper, darker was unfolding. The next morning, I met Mr. Callahan, a private investigator with the calm, bookish air of a librarian in his crowded Bellevue office. I don't care about the affair, I told him, sliding the folder with the bank statements across his desk. I know he's cheating. I need you to follow the money. Find where that $20,000 went and anything else that doesn't add up. He nodded, his eyes sharp. I'll get you answers, Miss Sarah. As I left, the Seattle rain soaked through my coat, but something inside me sparked, not just anger, but power. Ryan and Chloe thought they could break me. They'd underestimated me. I wasn't the fragile sister they'd written off. I'd been holding everything together all my life, and now I would dismantle theirs. 2 weeks later, Callahan's report landed in my inbox like a live grenade. I sat at my kitchen table, the gray Seattle skyline beyond the window, and opened the file. The numbers told a story worse than I'd imagined. Ryan had created a shell account funneling money to Chloe, her rent, her car, the designer handbags she flaunted online. But the real blow was a $200,000 transfer from Ryan's corporate expense account, embezzled funds, sent to a title company for a house in Tacoma, now listed in my mother's name. My own mother, who'd always favored Chloe over me, was part of their scheme. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a conspiracy, a calculated plan to strip me of everything. I called Mia, my voice steady, not with tears, but with icy resolve. They're not just taking my marriage, I said. They're stealing my life. Within the hour, Mia was at my apartment, laptop open, helping me fit the pieces together. The Tacoma house, the money, Chloe's pregnancy. Their plan was to leave me shattered and walk away with it all. My mother's involvement cut the deepest. She'd always excused Chloe's selfishness, but signing her name to a house bought with stolen money felt like she'd erased me as her daughter. I spent the next days preparing, my anger honing itself into a blade. Mia and I rehearsed my speech for the Glasshaven dinner in my living room until my voice no longer shook. You've got this, Mia said, her eyes blazing with pride. They're not ready for you. I nodded, clutching the 2 documents that would be my weapons. Ryan's medical report proving his sterility and Callahan's financial report exposing the embezzlement. Both tucked in my purse, a quiet promise of justice. The night before the dinner, I stood on my apartment balcony, the Seattle skyline. Stars shimmered against the night sky as the weight of betrayal pressed down on me. Chloe's jealousy, Ryan's deception, my mother's quiet collusion. Yet beneath the ache, something else pulsed. Strength. I had always been the dependable one, the fixer. And this time I would fix everything, not with pleading or rage, but with sharpness, precision, and resolve. As the city lights rippled on the water's surface, I whispered to myself, tomorrow, they'll finally see who I really am. The glass-walled venue glowed with chandeliers and soft jazz, the kind of place where Seattle's elite toasted their conquests. My birthday dinner should have been a celebration. Instead, sitting at the polished mahogany table surrounded by family and so-called friends, it felt like stepping into a war zone. Chloe rose, one hand resting on her stomach, her voice dripping sugar as she declared, "Ryan and I are starting a family." Ryan's hand clamped onto her shoulder, his eyes flicking to me with that rehearsed look of pity I had once mistaken for love. The table went still. Every face turned toward me, waiting for me to break. But I didn't. Instead, I sipped my wine slowly, letting silence stretch until their smugness began to crack. Then I stood, glass in hand, voice ringing clear beneath the chandelier's glow. "To family," I said evenly, pausing just long enough. "And to the truth." From my purse, I drew a folded sheet of paper, a medical report, and slid it across the table toward Ryan. "What's this?" he asked, his voice tight, fingers hovering nervously above the page. "The truth," I answered, loud enough for the entire table. "From Cascade Clinic. A year old." Color drained from his face. His hand froze above the report. He already knew. Chloe's smile faltered, her eyes darting between us. "The biggest lie wasn't you sleeping with my sister," I said, my words like ice slicing through the room. "It was you letting me believe I was the reason we couldn't have a child." Gasps rippled across the table. Chloe's hand dropped from her belly, her expression shattering as reality struck. Ryan was sterile. The baby wasn't his. Her gaze whipped to him, then back to me, horror displacing her triumph. I turned my attention to my mother, who sat rigid, her wine trembling in her grasp. "And Mom," I said softly, lethally, "that house in Tacoma is charming. But once Ryan's firm finishes their fraud investigation into that missing $200,000, they'll be seizing it." The room exploded. Ryan lunged across the table, his face contorted with rage. "Liar," he shouted, but security reached him first, restraining him as he fought, spewing curses at me. Chloe sat frozen, tears streaking down her face. My mother's sobs filled the silence, her head buried in her hands. I felt no pity, only a fierce, burning triumph. For years I had been the quiet one, the dependable one. But tonight I was the storm. I gathered my purse. Mia was already beside me, her steady hand on my back. As we walked toward the towering oak doors, Chloe grabbed my arm, her voice small and broken. "Sarah, please." I looked at her hand, then at her frantic eyes, and pulled free. "Save your begging," I said flatly, "and call the baby's real father. He deserves to know." The heavy doors shut behind me, muting the chaos of the life I was leaving. For the first time in years, the Seattle air filled my lungs sharp and clean. The months that followed were a blur of lawyers, depositions, and endless paperwork. But it was a clean break. Ryan's firm, desperate to avoid public scandal, offered a generous settlement, enough for me to start anew. I moved into a small Fremont apartment with a balcony overlooking the canal. Nearby, I found a pottery studio, a quiet refuge where I shaped wet clay into something new from the ruins of my past. One afternoon, Mia and I laughed as she fumbled with her clay, splattering mud onto herself. She flicked a speck at me. "Divorce final," she teased with a grin. "As of a few days ago," I said, smiling for real this time, light, unburdened. They didn't want their dirty laundry aired in court. My phone buzzed. A news alert flashed on the screen. Former financial consultant Ryan Carter, sentenced to 5 years for embezzlement. The photo showed him in handcuffs, his face hollow. I stared at it feeling nothing, no anger, no joy, just silence. That chapter was finished. I turned back to the pottery wheel. Clay cooled beneath my fingers. Now, where were we? I asked Mia, spinning the wheel again. On my balcony, a single orchid sat in its pot. I'd found it wilted on a clearance rack, its petals gone, battered but stubborn at the roots. I'd been nursing it back, watering it, whispering as if it could listen. This morning, a new bud had emerged, tiny, defiant, reaching for light. For so long, I believed I was broken, that I couldn't grow. But I wasn't broken. I had just been planted in the wrong soil, surrounded by people who wanted me to wither. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, fury, and the messy, painstaking work of rebuilding. If my story has touched something in you, subscribe and stay with us. Every scar tells a story of survival, of strength, of new beginnings. Keep shaping your own truth, and I'll see you at the next chapter.